Okay, we're holding over here now in the halachas and the laws of TEFILLAH that Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky will bring down, which he holds are essential, basic halachas that a person should know. And he says like this: Ein shum heter, there is no permissibility, there's no excuse, there's no allowance, l'dalig Pesukei de Zimra, to skip over the parts of Pesukei de Zimra. Just for, let's orient ourselves over here. Pesukei de Zimra is when you come in the morning, after the brachas, after the second Kaddish of Mizmor Shir, so then comes what's called Pesukei de Zimra, the verses that are preparing us for the Birchas Kriya Shemayim, for the Shemona Esrei. Rak mishum tefillah b'tzibur u'bakroi. The only reason that you'd be allowed to skip through Pesukei de Zimra is if you're running late and you want to be able to make sure that you catch up with the tzibur, with the congregation, so you can daven together with them. U'bakroi, and it's only something that should happen occasionally. Very important words over here. Yeah, you should only skip parts of Pesukei de Zimra occasionally. Every day does not mean occasionally. Okay? Occasionally means I was running late today, I walked in a little bit late, and I see that they're already holding farther than I thought that they were, so I want to make sure that I daven Shemona Esrei together with the minyan, so therefore I'm going to skip through a little bit of Pesukei de Zimra to make sure that I get there on time. There are many who are particular about this, when they write, Kol tzinoras hatfilah, and he says there are those who hold. Mr. Brewer brings us down that anybody who skips through the verses of Pesukei de Zimra, even if they're doing it for the right reasons, because they want to catch up with the minyan and daven tefillah b'tzibur, so there are pipes from Shemayim that are coming down to this world where all the bracha is flowing through, all the siyata, the Shemaya, the heavenly assistance, the Shechina is flowing through those pipes. We open those pipes up when we daven to Hashem in the right way. If a person skips through Pesukei de Zimra and jumps around, so he says you turn the pipes the opposite way and you end up not bringing the bracha down. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it's not going to be good. Your pipes are going to explode, God forbid. So therefore he writes that even though that I'm saying to you that once in a while you could skip, it's something that a person should be very careful with. There's a very powerful Maisa which took place, I think it's already about 6 or 7 years ago. You'll probably recall the massacre that took place in Harnof one morning when they were davening Shachris in the shul in Harnof, and a Arab worker, terrorist, came in with a knife, and Nebach, he ended up killing 4, I think the 5th one passed away afterwards, 4 of the Yidden he killed on the spot that morning. So it was a very big tragedy. It was very, very painful time. All of you remember, I'm sure. And there were many nisim, there were many miracle stories that came out as a result from this whole massacre as well. One of the stories was the following. There was a man who was always daven in this particular minyan. I think it's called Kehilas B'nai Torah in Harnof. There was a man who davened in his minyan every single day. And he was running late that morning for Shachris. And if anyone's ever been to the shul before, there's stairs that lead up to the top. There's big doors when you walk in. And he's running up the stairs, running late to shul. And he gets to the doors to walk inside. And as his hand is going onto the door, onto the handle to open the door, he remembers the conversation that he had several years ago with Rav Azriel Arbach, who was one of the children of Rav Shlomo Zalman Arbach, who was one of the greatest poskim of the times. And Rav Azriel is also a very big posik. And he asked him the following shaila. This goes back several years before this moment. And the question was the following. He said, if I'm running late to shul, I have a minyan I daven at every day, and when I daven at that minyan, so then I have a charusa afterwards, I'm able to then come home and help my wife with the kids, and everything works out in the perfect way. Sometimes I'm running late. If I skip that minyan, I go daven another minyan, I'm not going to be able to learn with my charusa afterwards, so that I can make it home in time to help my wife with the kids. So he asked Rav Azriel Arbach the following question. If I'm running late to shul, am I allowed to skip parts of Pesukei de Zimra in order to be able to catch up with the minyan and daven tefillah b'tzibur, to daven Shemona Esrei together with everybody, so I can keep my regular morning schedule the way that it is. So Rav Azriel Auerbach said to him, a Yid would skip through Pesukei de Zimra? He said, yeah, but if I don't, then and he said again, a Yid will skip through Pesukei de Zimra? He said, if you're running late, you go down the street and you daven in a minyan that you can daven on time with, don't skip a word in Pesukei de Zimra. The man is holding his hand on the handle to the shul. And he recalls the conversation he had with Rav Azriel Auerbach, who knows how many, several years before. And he looks at his watch and he sees he's running late. He takes his hand off the door, he goes down the street, and he davens at another minyan. By the time that he finished davening at the other minyan, the tragedy had already been, the Sfarsim was already revealed to the community that in that shul where he normally davened every single day, the massacre took place. But there's an an end to the story which I just heard a few months ago. Rav Azriel Auerbach told him, when he told him over the psak, and that is what my father of Shlomo Zalman said. My father said that a person should not skip Pesukei de Zimra to daven at the minyan they want to. They should go to daven another minyan. So after the story was over, they came to Rav Azriel Auerbach and they told him what happened. And they said, but Rebbe, your father writes in one of his svarim about tefillah, that if a person's running late for tefillah, and it's going to get in the way of his regular schedule of learning and the like and everything going on, so ba'akroi, once in a while, it's okay that he skips Pesukei de Zimra to catch up with the tzibur, so he can daven at the minyan. That's the minyan of his choice. Didn't you know that? He said, I did know that. He said, I did know that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put the words in my mouth and the response in my mouth in that way saved this man's life. So Rav Chaim Kanievsky is writing over here, and he's basing it on the words of the Mishnah Berurah, that is, that a person should be careful. With the words of Pesukei de Zimra, there's very holy kavanas, intentions that the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, the Chachamim of the previous generations had when they put all of these Pesukim, all of these Tehillims, all these words and verses together. And therefore, once in a while, we could skip. But more than once in a while, he writes over here, a person should be careful to make sure that they're davening on time, and they're able to say Pesukei de Zimra in the right way. Now, if Hebrew is a language that is difficult for you, and it's hard to go through all of the words in Hebrew and Pesukei de Zimra, so take your art scroll and read paragraphs in English. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't understand English, he understands English as well. The ikr, the main thing is to say Pesukei de Zimra. So if your lips kept getting stuck on the words of the Hebrew, so then say whatever you need to say in English. You'll add a little bit more Hebrew every week, a little bit more, another word. Eventually after another 10 years or so, you'll be able to say Pesukei de Zimra in Lashon HaKodesh in Hebrew, and you'll be Mekayim these halachas. Anyways, it's something that is, this is a talk about, we had last week's parsha was Akev. There's mitzvahs that we trample under our heels that we think it's no big deal. Pesukei de Zimra is trampled under everybody's heels. We think that it's not a big deal. You see over here, it is a very big deal. We should make efforts, Be'ez Hashem, to increase the amount of Pesukei de Zimra that we say. If you're holding already by skipping large chunks, try to add a little bit more every day, and Be'ez Hashem will get to the point where we can say Pesukei de Zimra in a way that will be with the proper kavod and the proper honor and glory to Hashem. Naftali?